Hello, I'm Paul Freedman. I'm the CEO of Altius Education. My story is entitled How Accessing Capital Can Help Us Get to More Learners More Quickly, the Case of Community College Transfer, and I'm very proud to say that that's the longest title of any of the rapid fire presentations. I was hoping that I could pair the longest title with the fewest number of PowerPoint slides, but somebody beat me to the punch with going with 0. But I still think I have a good ratio. So this story is my story. It's Altius' story. It's a story about who we are, what we're trying to do, and how and why we raised a relatively a significant amount of capital to invest in our big idea. And like all good stories, our story starts here, at my birth. And in full disclosure, that's actually not me. That's my 7-month-old, but it's one of the jobs of a young parent to try to show as many baby pictures as you can in a given day. So, yeah, thank you. You can give me a little too. He's cute. Thank you. So the reason why I say that this story begins at birth is that my family background is in higher education. My father's a physics professor. My mother worked in administrative roles in universities. I grew up on a college campus. And being there created a great passion in me in providing access to high-quality educational outcomes. And the reason is, at a very early age, I noticed something very particular about a college education, which is that it has this phenomenal life-changing, or really even generational changing aspects. There's something about a college education that once obtained, people around the person who gets the college education are more likely to go to school and get an education. Their children are more likely to go to school. Their younger siblings are more likely to go to school. Their nieces, their nephews, even their friends. And there's something about a college education that lifts the lives of not just the person who is lucky enough to get it, but all those people around it. And that's been my passion and is the mission of Altius Education. And in more particular, what Altius is about is solving this, which I call the intent success gap. So with all the criticism of the American system of education and all the complaints and all the problems that need to be fixed, there's one thing that actually I think we're doing really well, which is inspiring students and learners to think that they should go to college, to think they should make it a goal. For 18 to 24-year-olds, 11.5 million right now are trying to go to school. And in the segment where we play, the community college segment, the results are similar. 75% of students who go to community college do so with the intent of transferring to a 4-year program. And that's phenomenal. Not only do they want to go to school for 2 years, but they want to go to school for 4 or more. That's great. The problem is there's a big gap between that intent and success, and the gap is growing. So this is, this data is based on a Sacramento State University study, but there's other results that are similar, which says that after 6 years, less than 30% of students get a degree or transfer to another institution. And so that gap is what we're about and what we're trying to fix. And what we set as our initial goal is let's try to be twice as good. Let's try to get 60% of students who start with us to go on to get a college education, to go on and be successful in their academic pursuits. So we went through, to figure out how to do that, we went through a similar prototyping process to what you guys are all doing in your Action Co Labs, and we came up with what we think is a unique model. We partnered with Tiffin University, which is a regionally accredited university in Northern Ohio that since 1888 has had in their mission access and opportunity, making them an ideal partner, and we created with them a school called Ivy Bridge College, which essentially functions as an online community college or an online transfer college. So what it provides is a 2-year degree in a highly supportive online environment with a culture around motivating students to learn, motivating students to be successful, and in partnership with a network of 4-year universities across the country who articulate our degrees, articulate our students, and ensure that for every student who goes into the program, we can find an appropriate outcome for them, regardless of their end academic competency, regardless of what they want to study, regardless of where they live in the world. A student can come with us in a fully online environment for 2 years and then ultimately transfer to another institution where they finish their degree and get their diploma. And in doing that, in the prototyping process and in figuring out what we're going to do, we came across, with a lot of failure, 3 core elements that we think make what we're doing unique. And the first is coaching. So every student who comes into our program is individually assigned a relationship with a success coach. That coach acts as an academic advisor, a career coach. It's a shoulder to cry on. It's someone to give the student a swift kick in the rear when they need it. The success coaches are assigned to check in with their students for 30 minutes every single week. They have backgrounds in psychology or social work, and they're all passionate about making their students successful. And for our learners, some of which have come from very difficult K-12 environments, the success coach calling them is the first person that's actually showed care about their education, about their educational goals, and that is showing meaningful results. The other thing that we're doing, and this comes from the faculty side at Tiffin University, is that we're building a curricular philosophy around growth mindset culture. And this is based on modern research into the brain and how the brain actually works. And it turns out the brain is significantly more elastic than we ever imagined. And the brain, like any muscle, can be stretched, it can be grown, it can be strengthened. And there's really, except for very few cases, very limited cases, there's not really any, there's not good learners or bad learners. It's about effort and it's about motivation. And what's most interesting, what we're finding, is if you tell learners that that's how the brain works, they're more motivated to learn. If you tell them that their brain can be stretched and their brain can be grown, they're more motivated to try to do it. So we do that as part of our orientation process. It also changes the way we teach faculty to assess. So no more, you did really well on the math test, you must be really smart. It's you must have tried harder. It also changes, the kind of things that you celebrate. So we want to celebrate a student going from a C to a B just as much as a student going from a B to an A, because effort is effort, motivation is motivation, and those type of things make a big difference. And the other thing that makes us different for a non-public institution is that we're not a single silo. Ivy Bridge sits in the center of an ecosystem of institutions. We've partnered with about 70 universities across the country, including Arizona State and George Mason, and locally Golden Gate University and Alliant, a really diverse set of institutional types, such that for every student who comes into our program, we can provide them with a pathway to the most appropriate outcome for them. And so far, we think it's working. We have 1,500 students within 2 years. We're most proud of the success rates. Our last term-on-term success was 95%. We hope to expand that and grow that. So I move to the kind of the capital part. One thing that we asked ourselves while we were still prototyping this is, what are we going to need to make this big if it works? What if we get to our goal? What are we going to need? And it came quickly apparent that the big answer was money, and unfortunately a lot of money. And that was based on our model and based for a couple of reasons. The first is that we wanted to go quickly. We thought that the problem was big. We could have grown more slowly without external capital. But we wanted to attack the problem aggressively. We wanted to be part of the solution now, and that required going faster. The other, it has to do with certain laws of virality and the way that word of mouth works. For people to understand the value of the Ivy Bridge experience takes at least 2 years, right? Or in fact, it probably takes longer, because they don't understand the value of what they're providing until they find themselves successful at a 4-year institution. So we couldn't fairly expect that this was just going to spread by word of mouth. We needed to invest in the marketing of it. Marketing an educational program, no matter how well it's working, is a costly endeavor. There are 4,000 2- and 4-year universities in the States. Many of them invest significant amount in marketing. For an unbranded institution that no one's heard of before, it can cost as much as $3,000 to reach out. And I'll just demonstrate that in a little test. Raise your hand if before I started talking you have heard of Ivy Bridge College. Vincent, you work for us. Put your hands down. This shows the problem, right? You guys are in the market, you're thinking about it every day, and you haven't heard of what we're doing. And that shows the level of investment that we thought that we needed to make to get out there at impactful scale and to really make a difference. And so, how did we do it? Well, the first thing is that we had to come up with a model for which we could have invested capital. So Tiffin University, it's a nonprofit institution. It doesn't have the endowment to invest in something like this as ambitious. So we created a hybrid structure with Tiffin University where external capital could be invested. And the way it works is that Tiffin University controls all the academic and financial aid issues, and a for-profit entity controls the marketing and the student service elements of it. So that created an entity that can attract capital. The other thing is we had a business model for which capital could be interested. Although we charge less than the all-in public cost of a college education, we do so and make a profit on it. And given the fact that we can do that, and the fact that the universe of potential students who could use our program is vast, it provides the attractive dynamics for investment. So once decided that we had to do it, how did we go about it? And the process it was highly iterative. At first, when we were just testing the idea, we raised a very small amount of capital to prove that it worked. Once we had 150 students, we went out and raised more on the basis of the limited success that we had. And then when we had 1,500 students, we raised a significant amount more. And we think now we've had people willing to invest in our big idea enough for us to reach 10,000 students or maybe hundreds of thousands of students over the next few years. How did we find the capital? It turns out that was the easier part. The hard part was building something that works. What we did was we looked at the products and solutions that we learned from or that we taught from, and thought perhaps the organizations that invested in those things were still interested in investing in education, and it turns out to be true. But the fact of the matter is there's a sea of capital that's interested in investing in education. Venture capital, private equity, there's a ton of interest in this market, because if you look at it as a business market, it's a globally defined multi-trillion-dollar industry, and one for which outside capital knows what we know from the inside, which is it's ripe for change, it's ripe for disruption, it's ripe for big ideas. And that creates the dynamics where capital is significantly interested. And so the capital is out there to float any idea. But the biggest lesson that we had in going about that process was not to worry about that part. To focus instead on building something that worked, something that was different, something that was meaningful. And what we found, and our next presenter can certainly attest to, is when you do that, capital tries to knock down your door, even if you don't need it. Thank you.